Let's go ahead and let's dive into some fantasy football teams. The first team that we are going to be looking at here is going to be coming out from Neon Eagle. My friend, thank you so much. Going to be super excited to check this out for you. This is the team at 5 here. I'm sorry, the team at 4, Team Disappointment with the League Analyzer. This is a 1 quarterback, 10 team league. We picked 9th. We have the number 1 waiver wire priority. We took Olave in the 3rd. Okay, so this is an Olave team. Obviously, it is a little difficult to navigate the Olave debacle after week 1. We're going to try our best. I will say with this being a 10-team league where you only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, I'm sure you've heard me say this a ton, my friend, but really we are just trying to optimize for the highest ceiling we can possibly get. We don't necessarily care too much about the floor. We want to make 2-for-1 deals. We want to improve inside the starting lineup. There will be strong options on the waiver wire each and every week. But going over and looking at quarterback, we have Jalen Hurts. Hurts, phenomenal QB, QB2 in fantasy. We can start him every single week, regardless of matchup. Don't need a quarterback 2 because of that. Going over to running back, we have JT. JT looks like a solid running back 1 that we can have. Maybe a little more excited to have him as my RB1 in a 12-team format than a 10-team league. But still, regardless, fine having him as RB1. Kenneth Walker could play fine having as RB2. We have David Montgomery or Ramondre Stevenson, Zach Moss, Javonte Williams. So we have plenty of running back depth here. I would love to say, oh, let's take Zach Moss and go package him with one of these wide receivers to get an upgrade at receiver. But obviously, in a league like this, you're not going to get really any trade value for somebody like Zach Moss. So what I'd probably rather do, actually, is I'd probably rather take a running back like Ramondre Stevenson coming off an extremely strong week here and go through and package together Ramondre Stevenson with one of these wide receivers to go get that wide receiver upgrade, especially if we can find a team that maybe needs a little bit of help at running back, just because you do have 6 guys that are startable. And obviously, I mean, while they're healthy, Taylor and Walker are always going to be your RB1, RB2 here. So I like having the depth, but I think you have enough value with this depth that we actually can squeeze some with a trade. Going over to wide receiver, we have St. Brown, Olave, Higgins, Keon Coleman, and Deontay Johnson. So wide receiver, we have a couple of these high upside guys like T. Higgins, Keon Coleman that I actually think are maybe a little bit undervalued at this point that I'd rather hold on to. So, I mean, if we're looking at the receiver to potentially package with Ramondre Stevenson, I think if you could send Ramondre with Chris Olave to pivot over and get a better wide receiver 1, I think I'd be all in on that. Now, obviously, it comes down to, can you find a league mate that's not panicking on Chris Olave? Can you find somebody that's willing to, quote unquote, buy him low? And in that instance, I think some of the wide receiver names that I'd be looking at, and honestly, you don't have to sell Ramondre Stevenson. Instead, you can sell David Montgomery. It's kind of the same thought process. I just think that realistically, you're not going to be getting someone super, super excited about Montgomery, where I've seen personally in the comment section, in the live chat, and with these teams and questions on flockfantasy.com, that there are a lot of people that are excited about Stevenson at this point. So if you could potentially take Stevenson and Chris Olave, package them together, and go and get a wide receiver like Garrett Wilson, that'd be an absolute no-brainer. I mean, some other wide receivers, obviously Cooper Kupp would be an absolute no-brainer, but I think Kupp's maybe a little unlikely at this point. So I think maybe you could pivot to Nico Collins. Nico Collins would make a lot of sense here as well. The actual name itself doesn't matter as much as just going out there and making the structure of that 2-for-1 deal to improve. But yeah, I mean, this team right now at running back has Connor, Harris, Pollard, Ford, Dobbins, Miller. Maybe they're wanting, Ramondre could arguably be their RB2 here behind James Conner. So maybe you can make that 2-for-1 swap to go pick up Garrett Wilson, and it would be easy for them to move on from Kendrick Bourne as well. Another thing that you could look to do with all this running back depth is if you're going to have a hard time selling, say, that 2-for-1 deal, packaging up from Olave, instead, maybe you look to do the same thing, packaging up from Dallas Goedert, where if you could go ahead and send like Ramondre Stevenson and Dallas Goedert and go get a tight end like Trey McBride, I think that would be super appealing. Because really, it's not going to negatively impact what we have at running back, just because we have the top end assets. We have the depth behind it as well. But I mean, in this league where you only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, I would really like having the elite level tight end if possible. So yeah, I think that would be very, very exciting here, my friend. And even if this is a half PPR format, but obviously half PPR league, running backs a little more advantageous specifically for the flex. But looking at this, if you look at the values with the league analyzer, we do have one of the most valuable teams in this league already. So I think the main thing is just capitalizing on some of our running back value, making that 2-for-1 deal and going and getting that improvement in the starting lineup. But thank you again, my friend. I really hope I was able to help you out in some way here. Really hope you're able to get something from this. And as always, if there's anything I can do for you, let me know. And really do appreciate you as well, my friend. But let's go ahead and let's check out our next team. This one is actually going to be from Jets Observer here. This is Mendering. And I will say real quick, as we get over to this next team, of course, if you wanted your team reviewed, you can purchase a team review over there on flogfantasy.com. You can purchase a start sit question on flogfantasy.com. You can purchase a trade question on flogfantasy.com. I'm sure we're going to be going through all of those in this live stream. To be honest with you, though, definitely the cheapest way for you to get that team review would just actually be going through and taking advantage of the offer that we have over on Underdog Fantasy at this moment, where if you go and deposit $10 on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, you're going to be getting a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Plus, you're going to be getting a free team review on flockfantasy.com. And you're going to get this CeeDee Lamb special free pick'em, more than less than half a total yard as well. So if you wanted a free team review, I'd definitely make sure you go about it that way. All you have to do is make sure that you have an account set up on flockfantasy.com with the same email address that you used on Underdog Fantasy. But Jets Observer coming out, and Michael says, hi, hope you're well. Haven't seen my voucher show up yet. If you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy from September 5th to September 11th and made that $10 deposit, you should have your voucher on your account in flockfantasy.com right now. Go to submit a team for review, get to the final page, and it should say $0 for Mason Dodd. We just went out and handed out a ton of vouchers for everybody who had that account set up with the same email address as their Underdog account, made that $10 deposit, and that was a new first-time deposit on Underdog Fantasy September 5th through September 11th. And then we're going to keep on doing that every day, but the September 12th emails I haven't gotten yet, so we haven't been able to grant those vouchers. We'll grant those vouchers tomorrow morning. But so essentially, if you sign up with code FLOCK, make that $10 deposit, your voucher will be granted the day after you do it, the morning after. But anyway, I'm super sorry, Jets Observer, that we went through all that nonsense. Says, hello, I'm somewhat new to fantasy. I think I messed up my draft. Didn't get an RB2 until round 9. How do we fix the team to win the league? My friend, I think that you are in a phenomenal spot here. I mean, looking at this, while yes, this is a shallower format, this is a 10-team league where you only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. If you look at the league analyzer, we are currently the most valuable team in this league. Looks like we have a very well-balanced squad from top to bottom. Going over to quarterback, we're in a really good spot with A-Rich. You can start Anthony Richardson every single week, regardless of matchup. Having Tua here, I'm fine having Tua as a quarterback too. I think Tua has enough upside, and Anthony Richardson maybe has a low enough floor where if you think Richardson's playing style is going to lead him to being at a little bit of a higher probability for seeing an injury, then I'm okay if you wanted to roster that backup QB here with Tua Tagovailoa. Not necessarily something you have to do. Going over to running back, you're chilling, my friend. We have Saquon Barkley. We have the anchor RB here at the very top. This gives us a lot of flexibility for what we're going to do underneath. We have Pollard as a viable RB2. Obviously, we're not super excited about it. What I like that we're doing here at running back, however, is we are focusing on the depth of the running back position when we have the strong wide receivers at the very top. So we have the anchor RB, then we have Pollard, Mostert, Charbonnet, Hubbard, Algier. I do think that Tony Pollard is potentially a sell-high candidate when he should be in worse game environments going into the future in Tennessee. So I wouldn't mind at all if you could potentially take Tony Pollard and sell him in a 2-for-1 deal to go get an upgrade at running back 2 there. Now, the question is, what does that look like, right? Because we go over to wide receiver, love having Garrett Wilson on the squad, love having Nico Collins on the squad, love having Rice, love having Smith. But the issue is with T. Higgins is I think, honestly, people are maybe undervaluing T. Higgins just a little bit in comparison to where he should be based around this hamstring injury. So what I would recommend here, if we were looking at this, is I would love to take one of these wide receivers, package with Pollard, and go get that upgrade, specifically because it's a league where you can only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex anyway. So right now you have Smith and Higgins down here on your bench. The issue is nobody's going to be trading for Higgins. Obviously, the very exciting ascending player here that everybody is pumped about is Rashee Rice. For good reasons. Everybody should be very excited about Rashee Rice. But honestly, I would not fault you at all if you could trade Rice and Pollard to go get a top-end running back like Jonathan Taylor, like Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that would be very exciting going through and looking at maybe you go Kyren Williams. Because you could reasonably go through and make that trade. Instead of starting Rice, you're going through and you're starting Devonta Smith instead. You still have the upside rest of season with T. Higgins. You move from Pollard up to JT, Pollard up to Kyren Williams, Pollard up to Jahmyr Gibbs. If you could make that swap, I think that's beautiful. You can pick up another high-quality player off the waiver wire with this being a league where you only start 2 receivers, 1 flex. It's a 10-team format, so it's shallow overall. That's going to be the main thing that I would like to do here, my friend. Going over to tight end, we have Trey McBride, a tight end that we can start every single week regardless of matchup. We have the long-term upside of TJ Hawkinson, which I'm cool with as long as Hawkinson is on the IR. But I think you have a great team, even if you didn't make a trade. Obviously, we are attacking the running back position with depth, and having that anchor there with Barkley is going to help us out a ton. If this was a league where you had multiple flex spots, then at that point, I think we just hold on to this team exactly how it stands. But because it's a 10-team format where you only have 2 receivers and 1 flex, I wouldn't fault you if you wanted to trade, say, Rice and Pollard to go get that running back upgrade. But, I mean, obviously, it's a strong team, right? I mean, if we're going to go through and look at this with the league analyzer, it currently is ranked as the number 1 team in the league. But I really do appreciate you. Hope I was able to help you out here, my friend. And, yeah, thank you so much for everything. Let's answer some questions in the live chat real quick. Batman Gaming says, hello, do we start Jeff Wilson tonight? Half PPR. Do you think we could upgrade from Stevenson? Hope all is well. I would love to upgrade from Stevenson. I mean, if I'm looking at I would rather start Stevenson over Jeff Wilson Jr., assuming HN plays. But yeah, if you could sell high on Stevenson, I'm not going to follow you whatsoever for doing that. Ricky Daly, welcome to being a member of the flock, my friend. Eric, welcome. Chris asking, is there going to be a top 70 video? Yes, we have our top 70 flex rankings dropping tomorrow. Top 70 flex rankings dropping tomorrow. Joe says, should we trade Amari for Keon Coleman? I'm an idiot, and I already paid the piper on selling too low on Amari Cooper. I'm not going to tell anybody else to follow my idiotic path in doing so. If anybody's rooting for me in the flock league, I'm sorry that I fumbled the bag. I know that I did. I regretted it immediately. I know this is maybe going to surprise everybody here, but your boy can make mistakes. Hopefully I can live. Hopefully I can learn from said mistakes. But yes, I would definitely have Amari Cooper over Keon Coleman. Now let's move this over to some more questions here. This is from Mindering. Again, it's back-to-back teams. Thank you, my friend. Happy to look at this. Says, hey, I'm somewhat new to fantasy. It's my other league where I feel like I drafted decently this time, but a few of my guys are hurt or I'm panicking. What should we do with start, sit, waiver, trades, or any tips in general? Have a good week. Have a good week, my friend. It's funny that the other league you said that you felt like you did poorly in. This league you felt like you did great in. And here, this is a league where, I mean, I was going to say we're not 1 in the league analyzer. We're 2 in the league analyzer right there, almost tied with the number 1 team. So a very strong spot here as well. Going over, we have, okay, this is a team that I definitely don't like as much as the first one. I'll say that for sure. This is a team that at quarterback, we have Lamar Jackson. Having Lamar, obviously a quarterback with the rushing upside that we can start him every single week, regardless of matchups. You're not necessarily having to make that pivot. You are chilling with Lamar Jackson as QB1. Going over to running back, we have 2 very exciting options with Gibbs and Achane. In terms of submitting your starting lineup this week, if Achane plays tonight, for the love of God, go ahead and put Devon Achane into your starting lineup. If Achane does not play tonight, then at that point we pivot over to Zach Moss. My issue with this team is what we're doing at wide receiver. This is a league where you start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, so the depth here at the position doesn't necessarily matter. We have Tyreek as the anchor, holding the fort down. We have Pickens, Brian Thomas, Amari Cooper, Keon Coleman, Jackson Smith-Njigba. So we have high upside guys here at wide receiver 2. I mean, high upside, low floor players, right? I don't exactly know who we're going to start from week to week perspective out of this group. I think you're kind of going to play it by matchups. We're going to see what happens over the next few weeks. And then I think we'll have a much better idea of these wide receivers going into the future. Of course, you can pull up my rankings on the site. My friend, I'm assuming you remember the site at this point if you submitted 2 teams. But my issue is I like having all these wide receivers with upside on this team so we can hopefully find out who our wide receiver 2 is. And obviously, we want a wide receiver 3, even if it's a league where we only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. But my issue is when we look down here at Joshua Palmer and Allen Lazard, what are these guys doing for us? Like, what upside does Palmer or Lazard ever have to get into the starting lineup? They don't. I would way rather roster running backs like Jalen Wright, like Jeff Wilson Jr., just any of these guys that we're hoping maybe go out and maybe they're an injury away from all of a sudden being relevant in fantasy football and being very projectable starts. Because the thing is, if it was best ball, right, somebody like Joshua Palmer has a lot of value. You don't have to predict when he's going to go off. But here in your regular league, it is almost impossible. Going over to tight end, we have McBride. Love McBride. Start him every week, regardless of matchup. My main thing is with this team, I don't necessarily see a trade that makes sense. But I do think we want to be dropping Joshua Palmer, dropping Allen Lazard, picking up 2 running backs off waivers, especially with Achane being banged up here a bit. And yeah, I think you are in a great spot with both teams. This team I maybe have a slightly larger issue with, but it's not with the foundation of the team at the top. It's more so with the depth of the team with Palmer and Lazard. But thank you so much, my friend. Really hope I was able to help you not only with one of these teams, but with 2 of these teams. And as always, if there's anything I can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. Okay. Now, let's move this over to a completely different league format here, okay? Y'all know in the previous 2 leagues, we said depth doesn't matter, depth doesn't matter, depth doesn't matter. Let's go for the highest ceiling possible. This is an ESPN 14-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. Red Sea Gunners, right now we are dead middle in the league analyzer at number 7. This is a team that depth will matter way more than it does in those other formats. Now let's pull this up and let's analyze this monster. Quarterback, we are chilling with Matthew Stafford. Am I excited to have Stafford as my QB? No. Especially not with the Puka Nacua injury, especially not with the offensive line injuries. Looking at the vast majority of your teams in this league, because it's a 14-team format, this is what I was expecting. Most people are rostering 2 quarterbacks. There's another team here rostering 3. Okay, good. There are a couple teams down here at the bottom. Apparently, you're in a league with Joe Rogan. That's interesting. There are a couple teams here at the bottom that are only rostering 1 QB. So what I would look to do here is in a 14-team league in particular is I would look to roster that second quarterback if Matthew Stafford is our QB1. I understand that the second quarterbacks that are going to be available out there on the waiver wire right now are probably a little bit gross, but I still think you probably go ahead and do it regardless. Now, going over and looking at running back, I think this team would be a lot higher in the league analyzer if it wasn't for the CMC injury. You see that McCaffrey's fallen down to a 9 overall in the rest of season rankings as opposed to where he was at number 1 coming into the season. But if McCaffrey was fully healthy and he was that number 1 overall player, I think you'd be super pumped. I don't think you would have any hesitation. The issue is just the rest of season outlook on CMC at the moment. You're dealing with the Mostert injury, but we have Jacobs to start. We have Brown to start. So it's not like it's the absolute end of the world. We have a couple of these other running backs that are an injury away from making a difference. Going over to wide receiver, we're dealing with the Higgins injury. We have Pittman, Godwin, Gabe Davis. Here's what we're going to have to do. And it's not an exciting spot, but I mean, this team's just, we've kind of been brutalized, right? We got the CMC injury. We got the Raheem Mostert injury. We got the T. Higgins injury. It's a league that it's difficult to find depth. It's difficult to find options off the waiver wire because it's that 14-team format. So what I think I would look to do here is I think I'm going to look to sell one of Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely. I would rather have Andrews rest of season. Obviously, it's up to you to put out some feelers, see what the trade value you can get in return for these guys is. But I think you potentially need to go and grab a wide receiver. Because realistically speaking, if Higgins is a no-go this week, McCaffrey's a no-go this week, Mostert's a no-go this week, running back, you're starting Jacobs, Chase Brown. Wide receiver, we're starting Pittman, Godwin. And who are we starting in the flex? Jaleel McLaughlin? Are we starting Gabe Davis? Are we probably have to start a tight end in the flex? So I think what you end up having to do, specifically in a 14-team league where this depth's hard to come by, I think you have to sacrifice one of the premium tight ends here. There are going to be other teams in your league that are absolutely garbage at tight ends. This team starting Tyler Conklin and Chig. Like, if you can go through and if you can sell them, say, Mark Andrews for James Conner, sell them Isaiah Likely for Jaden Reed, I think that's a no-brainer. Obviously, don't make both of those, but just one of those deals. Going through and finding another team that's maybe struggling here at tight end. This team only has Evan Ingram. Maybe they are interested in one. This team only has Dallas Goedert. This team has Taysom Hill and Colby Parkinson. But because we have the injuries to running back and the injuries to wide receiver, I don't want to be throwing a tight end in the flex. I'd imagine that this is a team that probably started off 0-1 because we had the McCaffrey injury, because we had the Mostert dud, because we had the Higgins injury, because we had the Pittman dud. So if we started off 0-1, I don't think we can just pray that these injured guys come back sooner rather than later and keep our team as is. I think you have to go out there and sell one of those tight ends for a wide receiver that's appealing for the flex, my friend. But really do appreciate you. Really hope that I was able to help you out here. And of course, if there's anything I can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. But let's move this over to our next question. It's going to be a trade question from Tweaked. This is looking for a running back upgrade. Am I giving up too much at receiver? Hell no. This is Breece Hall by a country mile. This is selling 2 quarters for $1. You are stealing him. I don't care what the league settings are. This is just an absolute no-brainer here, my friend. Okay. Let's go ahead and move this over. Next question is going to be from Big Worm. This is another team review. Team name here is Smalls. This is another team that's number 1 with the league analyzer. This is another team that's that shallower format where it's a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex style league where wide receiver depth's not going to matter. And we're going to try to sell it any chance we get to go get that upgrade inside the starting lineup. But right now at quarterback, we have Jalen Hurts. Obviously, Hurts, goes without being said, elite level option. Don't need a QB2. You're going to start him every single week, regardless of matchup. We can just go ahead and move on. Going over to running back here. Running back, a little bit of a interesting situation. And when we have the elite anchor with Breece Hall, not only do we have the elite anchor with Breece Hall, we have Aaron Jones popping as the RB2. We have Jalen Warren, Rico Dowdle, Zach Charbonnet as quality depth pieces that are all kind of in committees, maybe have some upside if you were to see the other player in their respective backfield go down due to an injury here. I am not the biggest Aaron Jones guy. If you look at Jones and his usage week 1, it does appear that Aaron Jones is going to be a running back that's in an RB by committee. I expect the Vikings offense to be trailing games going into the future. I expect this to be a worse offense than what they just showed against the New York Giants. I think that they just really had a favorable game environment and a favorable matchup going up against New York. And I don't know if it's going to be that case every single time going into the future here. So I think moving off of Jones would be appealing. Going over to receiver, we have Harrison, Adams, Higgins, Godwin, Ridley, Lazard. So we have plenty of wide receiver depth. For me to tell you, let's go sell Calvin Ridley and Aaron Jones, get an upgrade, you're probably not going to be able to do something there. What I would rather do is I'd rather take one of these wide receivers with a little more name, a brand appeal, such as Devontae Adams. And if you could take Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones and go pivot to Jahmyr Gibbs, go pivot to Jonathan Taylor, maybe even Kyron Williams, I think that would be the interesting 2-for-1 swap there, my friend. Because in my mind, what you're backfilling in for Devontae Adams with Godwin, Higgins when healthy, I don't necessarily know if you're seeing that drop off from a points per game perspective. With this being a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, I think you will be in a situation in which you should have exciting options coming off the waiver wire when you make that 2-for-1 deal, and having the roster flexibility does make a lot of sense. And going over at tight end when we have Mark Andrews, there's not much to do. Obviously, I'm definitely worried about Andrews based off what we had week 1, but I think we're chilling and just hoping that it kind of gets a little better week 2. But overall, league quarterback, great running back room, solid wide receiver depth. It's a league that doesn't need wide receiver depth, though. So if we can take Adams, Jones, pivot over to a long-term upgraded RB, I think that's what I'm looking at. But yeah, thank you again, my friend, for being a member of the flock. Really do appreciate you sticking with me for so damn long now, and really hope that I was able to help you out here. Now, our next question coming out from Kath Reg. This is a start-sit question. This is an 8-team league where Jordan Mason is available on the waiver wire, but we need to drop a player. Please help pick a flex and the rest of the team. So yeah, if you link your team here on flockfantasy.com, it's great where I can just go through and I can see every option in your starting lineup and then who we would pivot to. I'm going to start Chase and Rice over Diggs and Reed. I wouldn't pivot anything there. We have a bunch of running backs to choose from. My favorite running back out of this list would either be Montgomery or Jerome Ford. I would start both Gibbs and James Cook over them. When it comes to the flex here, I think we're just going to go ahead, and if you have CMC ruled out, at that point, I think we drop, say, somebody like Brian Robinson and go pick up Jordan Mason to get in the flex spot for this week. I know it's crazy to drop Brian Robinson. It's an 8-team league. You're going to have to drop very good players consistently. That's why we want to make 2-for-1 deals in these shallower formats. But yeah, I think Jordan Mason would be a better play out of all of these guys. If CMC were to play, however, I think you're going to either go with Stephon Diggs or Jerome Ford. On that call, if I'm looking at my flex rankings this week, I currently have Diggs ranked 43 in the flex, and I have Ford ranked 50. So I do have Diggs one tier ahead, assuming that this is a full PPR format, my friend. I think we're going to go ahead and take Stephon Diggs. But thank you again. Really do appreciate you, and really hope I was able to help you out. And of course, I saw a couple times in the live chat people asking how to get their question up on the screen, how to get their team reviewed. You can purchase any start-sit question, trade question, team review through flockfantasy.com to get answered. I would definitely say the cheapest way to get a team review, however, would actually be just going over and taking advantage of the promo that we have on Underdog Fantasy. Or if you go over to Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, you're going to be getting a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Plus, you are also going to be getting a special CD Lamb pick'em, more than less than half a total yard. Today, they dropped the 30% profit boost token as well, which I am going to be taking advantage of. Probably going to save it for a pick'em that I really like this weekend. I'm eyeing Joe Burrow more than 229.5 passing yards. But yeah, plus if you use code FLOCK, you're going to get a free team review from me through flockfantasy.com. Find that link in the live chat and the description. Just make sure you have an account set up on flockfantasy.com with the same email address as your account over there on Underdog Fantasy, so we can manually credit you with that free team review voucher the following morning when I get that list of email addresses. But let's go over to our next team here. This is from We Not Fit. This is not loading right now, so let me back out, back in, see if it will load at that point. Okay. Actually, coming out from K $. You're saying any trades I should make and thoughts on the overall team. So this is a 12-team league where you start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. So it's not necessarily a league where you can completely disregard depth. It's not a league where it's you only have 10 teams. It's a little bit more of a balanced format, but definitely a league where we prioritize the studs where we can get them. But looking at us, we are currently second in this league with the league analyzer. We have Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields. Surprised to see how are we only ranked third with the league analyzer at quarterback. I guess this team has Lamar and Tua. This team has Mahomes and Burrow. Okay, so that's why we have some crazy people. But yeah, phenomenal quarterback room with Hurts and Fields. You don't have to roster a backup quarterback when we have Jalen Hurts. If you are going to do so, I definitely think it needs to be a quarterback that has a ridiculous amount of upside. I think Justin Fields has a ton of rushing upside. I think he has the name brand appeal as well, where if Fields were to go out there and crush, you could presumably sell him for a decent amount in a package deal. So I'm completely fine rostering Fields as a backup. Now going over to running back, you have Gibbs, Stevenson, Spears, Singletary, Tank Bigsby, as well as Braylon Allen. Looking at running back here with Jahmyr Gibbs and Ramondre Stevenson. These are our 2 starters every single week. I'm not the biggest Stevenson fan in the world. Funny enough, I have Stevenson on my team. However, You have safe volume. The issue is just the overall offensive environment that you're going to be in. I think it's going to be much worse going into the future than what it was just this past week. But I think Spears will be in a better environment. Singletary could be a desperate start. Bigsby, Braylon Allen are guys that have upside if the starter were to go down in front of them. Going over to wide receiver, we have A.J. Brown is the elite anchor at the very top, stacked up with Jalen Hurts. We have Drake London, who I think is going to be much better going into the future. We got London, looks like either in round 3 or round 4 in this format, so really do like that. We have Pickens, Jameson, Xavier Legette. Legette had the most targets in Carolina week 1. Off the top of my head, fact check me on that one. But I actually really like Xavier Legette if you're looking at like an underdog best ball draft where you wouldn't have to figure out when you'd put him in your starting lineup. And at the same time, with Xavier Legette, this is a wide receiver that was going at like wide receiver 70 in those drafts. But for me, I don't necessarily know if any of these Carolina receivers, with how bad this offense is, have the upside to become somebody that you're just really excited to just jam into your lineup and you know that you are going to be able to start them. So I maybe would drop Legette over Braylon Allen in favor of going and picking up another tight end off the waiver wire, because right now, I mean, at tight ends, we are looking at Jake Ferguson. In the case of Ferguson, it's a tight end that I do like rest of season, gets injured. We need a short-term fill-in. Your options to drop would be Braylon Allen, Xavier Legette, Justin Fields. In terms of guys that we are thinking that we could potentially see a pop from and trade them at a higher cost, Breece Hall goes down this week. Braylon Allen pops and immediately is an RB2. Like Deontay Johnson goes down. Xavier Legette's still not startable. Still doesn't have any value. Justin Fields scores 30 points this week against Denver. You can possibly go ahead and sell him to a team that needs a quarterback. So in this league where you only start 2 receivers and 1 flex, I wouldn't mind dropping Legette, picking up a tight end off the waiver wire. Once Ferguson's back, dropping said tight end, picking back up somebody like Xavier Legette. If not, you can go ahead, drop Braylon Allen, drop Tank Bigsby. But overall, I mean, I think it's a completely fine team. There's not much that we can do here. If we had maybe a little more wide receiver depth, I'd be fine packaging together Jameson or Ramadre to go get an RB2. It's that shallower format, only 2 receivers and 1 flex. And at the same time, I think both those guys are interesting sell high candidates. But specifically with the structure of this team right now, I think you're probably just better off optimizing the bottom end of your bench with a waiver wire, not necessarily looking for a big trade. But thank you again, my friend. Really do appreciate you. Really hope that I was able to help you out here. And Amir says, hey, Mason, do you think I should start Neighbors or Keon Coleman? I'm going to be going with Neighbors over Keon Coleman, my friend. Neighbors over Keon Coleman. Okay. And I know Neighbors did pop up on the injury report. Is a little scary. But this next question says, I currently have Purdy and Caleb as my quarterbacks that I'd likely drop. I have Ferguson as my tight end. Yeah, then this is an absolute no-brainer. I think Kelsey, Olave, both disappointing players week 1. You can kind of make an argument for either one of them rest of season. But if you're going to pick up Anthony Richardson when you have Brock Purdy and Caleb Williams as your quarterbacks, coming from somebody who also has Brock Purdy and Caleb Williams as their quarterbacks, I'd make this deal easily. Like, I have Sam Laporta in the Flock League as my tight end. I would trade Laporta, who's my tight end 1, over Kelsey. I would trade Laporta for these 2 guys, so I definitely trade Kelsey for him. Now, Teddy P says, I have Mark Andrews and Trey McBride as my tight ends. The team who named from the top rope has McCaffrey and Breece Hall. Chig is his backup. His team stacked. This was a counter. No, you said he countered him to switch Higgins in for Metcalf. So looking at this Chig's literally an absolute 0. Like, these players that you can pick up off the waiver wire, I know that maybe I shouldn't be doing this, and maybe you could say, oh, well, they still have some value. No, they don't. We can remove Chig from this deal. We can remove Braylon out from this deal. They're absolutely 0s in this. The real trade question is, who would you rather have between DK Metcalf versus Mark Andrews, Jordan Mason? And you have Trey McBride and Mark Andrews already at tight end. Can everybody please spam the chat? Who would you rather have here? Would you rather have Andrews and Jordan Mason, or would you rather have DK Metcalf? Please let me know in the live chat right now. Please spam it for us. Keep in mind, Trey McBride is your current tight end in this league. Okay, Mason, DK, Andrews Mason, Andrews Mason, Andrews Mason, Andrews Mason, DK, Andrews Mason, DK. It looks like the vast majority of people are on the Andrews Mason side, which I completely understand. You are kind of just free rolling the CMC injury upside with Jordan Mason here. DK Metcalf's low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3. I think we're going to go Andrews and Jordan Mason. Now, KBR says, I'm weak at running back and looking for some certainty with the rumors surrounding CMC. So we get an upgrade from CMC to Brees. We get a downgrade from Cup to Waddle. I'm going to go with CMC and Cup. Like, there is that outside chance that CMC is back this week. And let's go through, hypothetically, CMC is back this week. And you make this deal where Cup currently projects to be like a top 3 wide receiver. You just get absolutely crushed. You just get crushed in that instance. So I'm going to hold on to Cup and CMC here, my friend. Now, Thomas Mayer says, 1, Fields versus Tua. My guy, please do not type out the start sit questions anymore. Just put the players here. So like when you're filling this out, if you're thinking Fields versus Tua, you can add in Fields and you can add in Tua. That way, whenever we're looking at this on my side, I can go, oh, I want Fields and click it. But you're saying Fields versus Tua, I'm going to go Tua. And then Ayuk versus Jaden Reed. I'm going to go with Brandon Ayuk relatively easily, my friend. But yeah, also if you fill this out, not only are you going to get the clip from the live stream of me saying this sent to you on flockfantasy.com, but you'll actually get the answer itself sent to you as well. Like when it's sent back, it will show Brandon Ayuk here and it will show Tua here. So it'll be very easy for you. Okay. Now, J-Rod, who was out here in the live stream last night, says, trying to pivot from Jaden Reed. My biggest need is tight end. Yeah, then this is an absolute no-brainer. I have Hawkinson on the IR, but he's not going to return until week 7. No, my friend, I think that this is an absolute no-brainer deal. I think if this is the price point of Jaden Reed currently with the Jordan Love injury, this is a no-brainer. Let's go ahead and let's get Sam Laporta. Please get Sam Laporta here, my friend. Love the deal. Now, Chris coming out with a question says, went 0 RB and bet on the wrong Chargers running back 1, leaving me with only Stevenson as my solid running back. So we're essentially pivoting down from Nico Collins to DJ Moore and picking up J.K. Dobbins at the same time. So I think DJ Moore is that interesting buy low candidate because of the Rome and Keenan injuries. And I think Caleb's going to be better going into the future. But to be honest with you, I think that Nico Collins is just straight up him in one of the best offenses in the NFL. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Nico Collins. I 100% see a team that really needs a running back. I think that this could help you out. But for me, yeah, looking in the chat, Gandalf the Gray says Nico a dog. That's where I'm at. Nico a dog. All right. We want Nico Collins. Fall says, how do you send questions? So if you wanted to purchase a question over on flockfantasy.com, everything's through the site. You just hit the little comment button in the top right corner, and then it will take you and ask you, do you want a roster review, trade question, start sit question? But I will say, definitely the cheapest way to get a full-blown roster review will just be going through Underdog Fantasy and taking advantage of the $10 promo that we have with them right now, where if you set up an account on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, and make a $10 deposit, you're going to be getting a free team review through flockfantasy.com for me to review your team on this live stream. And at the same time, you're going to be getting a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. You're going to be getting a CD Lamb special pick'em more than less than half a total yard for the Dallas Cowboys game. Check out all these pick'ems. And yeah, you actually have a 30% profit boost token that just dropped today as well, which I am going to take advantage of, but I'm just saving so I can keep showing it in the live stream when we point people to Underdog. And you can find that link in the description and comment section. But moving this over, yeah, like I said, I think we're going to go Nico Collins there. Our next question coming out from Go Utes Tommy says, 10-team double flex, 2 points per reception. We looked at this yesterday. Did I win this deal? Sorry. So I do want to reiterate, in a league where you get 2 points per reception, every single chance we get, we want to be putting a wide receiver into that flex spot. And real quick, Big Worm says, appreciate the review. Much love, my friend. Hopefully I was able to help out, and hopefully it was what you were looking for. Trying my absolute best, but much love. And looking at this, 2 points per reception in this league. Definitely want to be prioritizing wide receiver. We're upgrading from Pickens to DJ Moore. We're upgrading from Connor to ETN. I actually have James Conner ranked over ETN in the short term, but long term, when Benson expands his role, I'd be a little more concerned about James Conner here. So, I mean, honestly, paying Brock Bowers to get the job done while Bowers is tight end 8. I actually probably do prefer the DJ Moore and Travis Etienne side, specifically with this being a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. Young Krelo asking if we have any pick'ems on Underdog tonight. We have a decent amount of questions to get to, so I will go back over and check out Underdog and come up with a pick'em for everybody, but just give me a second on that. But our next team, Hawk Tua, this is a 12-team league. I apologize. Any suggestions for the team? Everyone in my league is open to trading everyone. Okay, so this is a fun league to be in. Good news is we are the number 1 team according to the league analyzer. Do really like to see that. So here's something I want to ask you, and I want to ask everybody in the live chat right now. So obviously it appears that every single time somebody submits a team, or the vast majority of times, they are the number 1 team in the league analyzer. Is that because typically the people on the site are using a good set of rankings and they have good teams? Or is it because people who have great teams want to show them off in the live stream and people who have bad teams don't want to submit them? I don't know what it is, but every single time we are looking at these teams, they are great. Sean says that's because we're using the rankings. Hopefully that's what it is. Hopefully it's because everybody knows what they're doing and is informed. I'm a little bit worried that it's just when anybody puts up, like, links a team that is not good, they go, yeah, I don't want this showed in the live stream. Now, going ahead and checking this out, looking at quarterback, we have Jalen Hurts. Going over to running back, we have CMC. Oh, so with Hurts, obviously, don't have to talk about this too much. He's a quarterback we start every single week, regardless of matchup. You don't need a backup quarterback. You are in a golden spot. Like, there's nothing to talk about here. Going over to running back, now this is a little bit tougher. Actually, it's not that tough, right? Because we have Jordan Mason. Since you have Jordan Mason, the McCaffrey injury isn't too much of a sweat for you. It's just very clear. Whoever the starting running back is in San Francisco, if it's McCaffrey that week, you start McCaffrey. If it's Jordan Mason, you go ahead and you start Jordan Mason. I mean, there's nothing really to think. With Najee Harris, it's a running back that had a really nice workload previously. And real quick, we actually got an update. Devon Achane is active for this game. Devon Achane is going to be playing tonight. I highly recommend, if you have Devon Achane on your team, you put him into your starting lineup. You have him on your team, I'd put him in your lineup. But anyway, a lot of people are excited about Najee. I think actually Najee Harris probably does have a decent game this week because he is going up against the Denver Broncos. But in the long term here, I think I'd maybe be a little bit concerned about Jaylen Warren expanding his role, coming back off of the hamstring. So I think I'm chilling with Najee for now, but maybe after this week, he will be a sell high candidate for us. Going over to wide receiver, we're extremely strong at the top, right? I mean, we have Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, Michael Pittman Jr., Chris Godwin. So 4 guys that we can start every week. We are very excited about them. But we have depth beyond this as well. We have Keon Coleman. We have Christian Kirk. We have Rome Odunze. So what I am looking at with this team in particular is I'm looking at a player like Christian Kirk as somebody that has no upside. Like, how does Kirk ever hit your starting lineup in this league? I mean, I could see Rome Odunze turning out like to just be an elite talent, an absurd player, and all of a sudden he's a wide receiver 1 in fantasy and you have no other option but to start him. Like, that's a possibility. At this point in Christian Kirk's career, there's no way that happens. We know Christian Kirk, best case scenario, is a wide receiver 2. Best case scenario. So I think what I would more likely than not do is I would love to package together, say, Christian Kirk and Najee Harris in a 2-for-1 deal to go get that upgrade at running back, open up another roster spot, pick up another running back off the waiver wire, and expand our bench at running back a little bit because we just have so much depth at wide receiver. And I think trading Christian Kirk does not negatively impact this team in the slightest. There's no world you ever start Kirk here. I think Najee Harris, you have to possibly be concerned about Jalen Warren expanding his role, as we mentioned, and Cordell Patterson had a little bit of a workload here as well. Going over to tight ends, we have the elite tight end in Sam Laporta that we can start every week regardless of matchup. My tight end 1, love to see it. I think overall it's a great team. Obviously, I mean, I don't need me to say that. It's number 1 with the league analyzer. The main thing is just seeing if we can take one of these depth receivers that doesn't have the upside like Kirk, with a running back that I think has a cap ceiling like Najee Harris, making that 2-for-1 deal and going and getting an upgrade right now. But if you wanted to wait until after the Denver Broncos game, I wouldn't fault you at all for that, just because it is that tough matchup going up against Denver. Okay, so let me close out of this, and then we are going to answer some questions for free in the live chat. So if you have any questions, please make sure you get them in right now in the live chat. Mark says, how do we get a team review after making the deposit? So if you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy and you made your first deposit September 5th or after, you should be accredited with a free team review voucher. If your first time deposit was September 5th through September 11th, you should already be credited today. However, if you use promo code FLOCK and made your first time deposit today, you're not going to get credited with that free voucher until tomorrow. Underdog sends me the list of everybody who used code FLOCK on Underdog the morning after that day. I'm going to upload that on flockfantasy.com. Credit all those people who have an account with the same email address with that free team review voucher on flockfantasy.com. So just make sure you have that account, and you just go to the little comment looking button in the top right corner. Takes you to the page to choose team review, start sit, or trade question. You hit team review. You choose your team, you choose the creators, and once you get to the creators, it should say $0 for me. And if it doesn't say $0 and you think you should have a free team voucher, please shoot me an email or something. Just get a hold of me. But let's move this. D. Larsa says, better flex play. Jordan Mason, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors. Thanks. Much love, my friend. Thank you for sticking with us for so damn long here. If you're looking at Mason, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, if CMC were to miss, it's easily Jordan Mason. CMC did practice yesterday. CMC did practice today. So it is difficult to know if McCaffrey will be missing any time or not. When it comes to what you have with the Malik Neighbors injury, obviously it makes things maybe a little bit more nerve-wracking, in that our backup option of who we can pivot to is now just a little bit worse here. I would still not play Keon Coleman tonight. I would still plan on Jordan Mason. And if CMC is a surprise active, then at that point we pivot to Malik Neighbors if fully healthy. And if Neighbors is not healthy, then we have to pivot to Brian Thomas Jr. Okay. Benjamin says, do I play Andrews or Likely this week? Go Andrews, please. Asher says, where are we valuing Puka? I think this is an interesting question. I'll go pull up my rankings on the site for you real quick. Now I'll show you where I put Puka rest of season. So let's hit sort by. I updated my rankings yesterday. I'm going to try to update these every single day, so I probably need to update them again. We'll go wide receiver. So just look at where it says wide receiver 6, wide receiver 5, wide receiver 4, et cetera, et cetera. But right now I have Puka Nacua at wide receiver 22 in my rest of season rankings. Wide receiver 23 is DK Metcalf. Wide receiver 1 is Stephon Diggs. So I have Puka right between Metcalf and Diggs in my rest of season rankings. Okay. Leonard says, with CMC likely to be out, Gus or Jeff Wilson Jr. starting? I would almost rather roll the dice that CMC plays. Like, I'd rather have Jeff Wilson Jr. over Gus Edwards this week, even with HN being good to go. But if there's a tiny % chance that CMC is good to go, I'd rather roll the dice that happens. Hunter says, I already have an account on Underdog. Do I have to be a new member to use the code FLOCK for a team review? Yes, you do. I'm sorry. Has to be a first-time deposit from September 5th or beyond to take advantage of the Underdog free team review promo. You can always purchase a team review on flockfantasy.com as well. Elite Henry says, just bought a team review. Can you review it, please? Yes, sir. We're going to get through all of them tonight on the stream. Cole, I'm sorry. We turned off super chats forever. We're not going to do super chats anymore. We do everything through flockfantasy.com. Kevin says, horrible trade. Sorry, Mason. I know I made a horrible trade. I know. I will tell you now, though, the horrible trade I made in the Flock League, which just look up the Flock League on YouTube if you want to follow that. I am now rooting for Javonte Williams and Hollywood Brown more than any other player in any other players in fantasy football, which is a disgusting position to be in. Do I think that they're going to be great? No, but I hope that they are, because if somehow, some way, Javonte and Hollywood turn out to be good this year, which is probably unlikely, oh my gosh, I'm going to be loving life. Y'all will see some of the best clips ever posted on YouTube. If Javonte has 2 touchdowns Sunday, which is not going to happen, but if it were to happen, y'all will see some of the best clips ever. Okay. Gear says, do I have to pay to get a review, or is there somehow, some way I can get? Otherwise, I'm using ESPN. So if you wanted a team review over there on flockfantasy.com, like we said, you can always purchase a team review. You can purchase a start sit question. You can purchase a trade question. The cheapest way, though, and what would only cost $10 is if you're new to Underdog Fantasy, using promo code FLOCK, making a $10 deposit on Underdog. With code FLOCK, you'll also get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. You also get a CD Lamb special pick 'em more than less than half a total yard. You'll also, they just dropped the 30% profit boost token that you can use today as well. But yeah, you can purchase a team review on flockfantasy.com. But like I said, definitely the cheapest way is just go ahead and take advantage of the promo that we have with Underdog, because then it only costs $10. But let's move this over to our next team. This is going to be from Bert. This is team football time. So, sup guys, I went heavily rookie sophomores in the draft, honestly, because I just thought it would be fun. But then we lost week 1. Yeah, if you go heavy into rookies, right, the expectation isn't that we start off super strong. The expectation is, okay, this is a team that maybe starts a little slowly, but you improve as the year goes on. And you're saying you don't want to actually dig a hole for myself. Do we have any recommendations? Well, good news is, my friend, this is a league where you only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. So the depth doesn't necessarily matter too much here. And at the same time, you are number 1 with the league analyzer. So we are coming from a position of strength. Looking at the squad, quarterback, we have Kyler Murray. Kyler, I definitely think, is in a great spot this week for sure. With Kyler Murray at the same time, I think he kind of fits in the mold of a quarterback that if you wanted to roster 2 guys, you can. If you only want to roster Kyler, he does have rushing upside, so you can just roll with Kyler and hope that the rushing upside gets you there. So, yeah, completely fine just having Kyler here, of course. Now, going over to running back, you are currently sitting with a couple top-end RBs with Bijan Robinson as RB1 here. We have Devon Achane there as RB2. With Bijan, 3-down bell cow, make an argument that he's an RB1 in fantasy. He's the RB1 in fantasy, or he's the RB2 in fantasy. It doesn't really matter regardless of the situation. Bijan Robinson is an absolute crusher at this point. Having Achane here sounds like Achane's going to be good to go week 2. I'd highly recommend that you start him this week. And at the same time, with Devon Achane, this is a running back that is hopefully only going to get healthier, getting 10 days to rest after this game. We have some quality depth, the running backs that are an injury away from really seeing a nice job with Chase Brown, Zach Charbonnet, Jaleel, Ray Davis. I like rostering as many running backs as we possibly can of this ilk, especially in that league where you only start 2 receivers and 1 flex. Going over to wide receiver, we have Harrison, who's maybe the reason why we lost at the very top here. We have Rashee Rice, who looks like an extremely strong wide receiver 2 option. Terry McLaurin, disappointing piece. Ladd McConkey, kind of an ascending piece, but regardless, I think we're kind of chilling here at wide receiver as well. I'd say maybe Yoshi at the bottom end would be somebody that I'd be willing to drop to pick up another quarterback behind Kyler. Looking at the other teams in your league, the Davis team, the Taco team, the Stroud Boys team, they are only rostering 1 QB, so I'd imagine that you can maybe get a decent quarterback off the waiver wire. Yeah, you drop Yoshi, pick up another quarterback off waivers. At tight end, we have the tight end 1 in Sam Laporta. So Don't need to roster another guy there. Extremely excited about what we have. So, I mean, overall, I think you're in a really solid situation if we're looking at the team as it stands right now. I think maybe just clearing up some of this bottom end wide receiver, picking up another quarterback. We get lucky with the Achane health in the report that he is good to go this next week. So I think you're in a really good situation here, my friend. I don't necessarily think that you need to be worried at all. It's a team where you drafted a lot of rookies and a lot of second-year players. So if you drafted a lot of rookies, if you drafted a lot of second-year players, obviously it's a squad that we should expect maybe to start a little slow, but it's going to get better as time goes on. It's great roster construction. We're the number one team in the league, according to the power rankings here with the league analyzer. So I think the main thing is maybe just dropping that bottom end wide receiver and then moving on and picking up another quarterback off waivers. But that's such a marginal thing. Really, I don't think there's much to do. I think you have a great team. I think you just got to be patient. Really do appreciate you, my guy. And really, I'm wishing you the best of luck. But we're going to go ahead and get this next team review going from Murph 14. This is loading the same league as the previous one. So let's see. May end up having to skip by that one and going back to it. This is a trade question from Condor right now. Says, Mason, you're the man. This trade was already accepted. Did we win? We have Xavier Worthy, Tyler Lockett, Jerome Ford versus Devonta Smith. So Lockett is almost an absolute zero. It's really Ford and Worthy versus Smith. I think there's more value on the Worthy, Lockett, Ford side. If this is a very shallow format, I think you can make an argument for Devonta Smith here. But I think it really does depend on your team. It looks like you didn't link your league, so I can't see your team down here. Can y'all spam the chat? Would you rather have the Worthy side or the Smith side on this? Would you rather have the Worthy or the Smith side? Please let me know. Shut says Smith. Kara says Worthy, Smith, 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 Worthy. Smith, Worthy, Smith, 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 Worthy, Smith, Smith. So it does look like most people are on the Devonta Smith side here, which is interesting. I just think based off some of the other trades that I've seen on this live stream, I would imagine that you could get a little more with Xavier Worthy. Like I've seen some people in the comment section that are just getting an absolute steal on Worthy at the moment. So I probably prefer, I don't know. I think it's up to you. I think it's up to the two people. I don't think there's necessarily a winner with this. But yeah, it's a very interesting trade. And I would love to see how this plays out. Okay. Let's move this over. We're going to have to get to We Not Fit in a little bit. Pitcher Levi says, you said for me to go upgrade my running back room. I think this is a great deal on a trade. They already accepted it. What the? I don't know if you're messing with me. I don't know if this is a joke here, my friend. Obviously, we'd rather have Gibbs by a country mile over Brian Robinson. That is insane here. Goober says, he types out in the chat, my friend, next time you submit a start set question, just please put the players here that you were considering. That way I can just click them. It will send to you exactly who I think you should start. But he types in the chat, says, should I start Pickens versus Denver or DeAndre Swift versus Houston in a full PPR format? Full PPR league, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Pickens there, my friend. But yeah, next time you use this tool, please just make sure you add the players there. That way I can just go ahead and put them in for you. Now, Code Guapo says, already accepted the trade, just wanted a second opinion. So trading Stevenson for Bowers and Michael Pittman Jr., I think I'm going to prefer the Pittman and Bowers side of this. I have Stevenson in the Flock League, and honestly, if I could get the same deal, I would go for Bowers and Pittman. I think maybe if this was like a league where you only started 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, and you're telling me you have a stud tight end, then maybe I could see the Stevenson side. But yeah, I think Bowers and Pittman should have more value here. Okay. Taylor Park Boy says, it wouldn't let me add it, but I'm also considering Keon Coleman Kincaid is my tight end. We also have Isaiah Likely. So currently, wide receiver, you have London, Amari Cooper. I think we're going to be going with London over Amari. If you look at what sportsbooks are projecting at the moment, they are projecting that this Atlanta Falcons offense is better than what you have in Cleveland this week. And I think both guys dominate the target shares of their respective offenses. We're not even playing Keon Coleman over either player. And now at running back, you have ETN, Josh Jacobs, James Cook. I think we're going to go Travis Etienne. Most weeks, we're probably going to take Josh Jacobs here. I just don't think you're going to be that excited about Jacobs in a game where Love will not play. But let's go ahead and let's back out. We'll answer some free questions in the live chat. Then we'll get back to some of those questions in the stream. Freshie says, HN in and Mostert out 100%. I do think you are wanting to start Devon Achane this week. I think you have to start Achane this week. Okay. Swagmaster says, do we think London or Smith this week? Ooh. Obviously, London went well ahead of Smith in drafts. Smith's in the much better offense. I don't know. I think I want to go with Devonta Smith. Implied team total of 27 points against Atlanta here. I think we're going to go Smith. Joe says, Mason, can you give me a good pick 'em? I need one more. We'll look at that in 1 second. Let me answer some more free questions. Robert Miller says, Benson in a future first for Stevenson. Benson by a mile, my friend in Dynasty. Benson in the first. iBeastie Flow says, I put Achane to not have a touchdown on Underdog. I don't blame you for that at all. I'm going to look for some Achane lower thens, to be honest. UL says Tua or Dak. Probably go Tua. You get the benefit of getting to watch tonight, and that'd be fun. Andrew says Achane over Henry. Henry, y'all know I'm not a big Derrick Henry guy. Like, I have very, very little Derrick Henry in Underdog. I didn't take Derrick Henry in the Flock League. I hope Derrick Henry does nothing this year, to be honest with you. I scream from the rooftops how he was overrated, blah, blah, blah. But with that being said, Derrick Henry is going to absolutely crush this week. Derrick Henry going up against the Raiders, it's the perfect spot for him. Okay. Harrison or Brian Thomas Jr., please go Harrison. Dolphins or Bills, I'm going Bills. I think the Bills are a much better football team than other people do. Like, I had Bills, like, I know y'all are going to hate this. For my Super Bowl call this year, I went a little bit off the wall. I didn't want to pick the Niners. I don't want to pick the Chiefs. I wanted to go a little crazy. My Super Bowl call this year, I have Bills, Eagles with Bills winning. I think the Bills are a good football team. I think Allen limits some of these turnovers, and the Bills are crushing. Speaking of Allen, all right, I think Allen is a good quarterback. I think this is a very good Bills team. My favorite pick'em on Underdog for tonight's game is Josh Allen for more than 246.5 passing yards. I've already taken some of these pick'ems for Josh Allen. Let me see if I can find some pick'ems that I have for tonight's game already. So, pick'em that I have for tonight's game. Here are the pick'em slips that I've submitted. I went Josh Allen, Dalton to have more than 244.5 passing yards. You look at like every single game that Josh Allen's played over the past 3 years against Miami, all over 300 passing yards with a couple 400 passing yards, like literally insane. I have Kincaid to score a touchdown. I have Jalen Waddle higher 64.5 receiving yards. This is $5 to win 55. I use the no sweat token on this, so even if I lose, I get my $5 back. Like I said, make sure you're using the Underdog pick'ems where you can. I have Josh Allen for higher 1.5 passing touchdowns. I have James Cook higher 18.5 receiving yards. I have Tua higher 1.5 passing touchdowns. This is a $5 entry to win 35. So, Yeah, I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, and I'm honestly excited about it. Let me move this back over. And let's pull up some more teams here. And I do want to remind y'all, of course, if you want to get start set question answered, trade question answered, team review, you can go through and purchase any of those on flockfantasy.com. I'll remind you that the cheapest way to get a team review, however, will actually be going and taking advantage of the promo that we have with Underdog Fantasy, where if you use and copy paste state says, what's the 2 picks for 9,000? That is just what's called the streaks. It's only a $10 pick 'em, but it's like a weird underdog thing I don't want to explain right now. But anyway, if you use code FLOCK on Underdog, you will actually get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Plus, we'll get a free team review over on flockfantasy.com. Just make sure you have an account set up on flockfantasy.com with the same email address as your Underdog one. And you also get that CeeDee Lamb special pick of more than less than half a total yard, 30% profit boost token as well. They just dropped today. But let's go ahead and let's answer some more of these questions. And this is finally loading for Steve. Happy to get in this. Just please to review the team and see if we should be making any trades. So Steve here is Alvin and the Jeffersons. This is team number 7. This is a 10-team start 8 format, so you can start 2 wide receivers and 2 flexes every single week. We have Josh Allen, my QB1 in fantasy, insane rushing upside, 15 rushing touchdowns last year. You absolutely love to see it. Running back, we have Saquon Barkley, we have Alvin Kamara, we have Pollard, we have Mostert, we have Gus Edwards. So running back, really comfortable spot. You have the anchor. It's a full PPR league, so Kamara is a really solid RB2. The depth with Mostert and Gus Edwards doesn't really look like it's hitting. So if you're looking at possibly, my thing is I think Pollard's an interesting sell high candidate in a league like this. Full PPR format, I think you actually have Spears a little more of the receiving role and Pollard a little more of the role on first and second downs here. But regardless, because Mostert, Edwards don't necessarily look like they're viable depth pieces, and this is a league where you can start up to 4 wide receivers in a week from a week-to-week perspective, I actually probably prefer holding on to Pollard with this spot in particular. Going over to wide receiver, we are currently sitting with Justin Jefferson, Zay Flowers, Michael Pittman Jr., Tyler Lockett, Curtis Samuel, Greg Dortch. Tight end, we have Kincaid and Parkinson. I think Kincaid's going to be much better going into the future here. Overall, I think that this is a team that's constructed well. There are just some of these names that I'm not a big fan of myself. I'm fine having Curtis Samuel now that those price points come down so much. Like, I'm definitely not going to tell you to sell Samuel. I think Greg Dortch is an okay pickup here because it's that league where you can start up to 4 wide receivers from week-to-week perspective. I'm concerned when it comes to Zay Flowers and Michael Pittman Jr. that the passing volume may not just be there in their respective offenses with their quarterbacks being more so rushers. I'm a little concerned that Spears is going to take a little bit of a larger split from this Tennessee backfield. I would love to tell you to go and take Lockett, package him with Pollard to go get that running back upgrade. But the issue with this is the depth that we have across the board. I don't think is good enough to make that 2-for-1 deal at the moment, specifically in a league where you can start up to 4 wide receivers from week-to-week perspective. So as we sit here, my friend, I don't necessarily think that there's much to do because of the Mostert injury, because Edwards kind of flaming out. If Pollard does have another strong week and we see another week where Spears is the third down back and at the same time you actually have Spears in the 2-minute drill, then at that point, I think we'd probably look to pivot off Pollard. Hold on to Kamara in a full PPR format. I think Kamara fits the team extremely well. And we'd love to go through and see if we can package up, maybe and tier up at wide receiver, sell Pittman and Pollard, and go get that upgrade there at receiver. But we would definitely need Mostert back and healthy if we were going to make that move. If you could potentially go to a Ferguson team, a David Njoku team, and offer them Parkinson and see if we can get anything in return, I think that'd be interesting, like Parkinson and Zay Flowers, and just see if we can go get a slightly better receiver. Like, see if we can go get Malik Neighbors. I think I would like that. But overall, I mean, this is a team that we just mainly need to be cycling through these bottom end options with waivers every single week. I think hitting on Barkley definitely makes this a strong squad. We just need the Kincaid Allen stack to come through for us. But honestly, I think that they can in a big time way tonight. But yeah, thank you again, my friend. I really hope that I was able to help you out in some way here. There's not much that you can do on that squad because it's that deeper format and because it's a league where we have those injuries we're dealing with. So they were probably just trying to play the waiver wire for the time being and hoping that Kincaid looks better. But let's see if this will load for... No, it's not loading for Murph 14 yet. See, we not fit. This is not loading for either. We're going to have to probably do those separately. Let's see. Let's answer this trade question real quick. This trade question seems like a great deal. I have St. Brown and Collins already. Rice would be a great, and London could be a dud. So I have no idea how you would not make this trade. I still would way rather have Drake London over Jaden Reed rest of season. You have the Love injury. I mean, you have Reed with a lot of target competition. In the case of London, you have no competition there really in Atlanta. I'd way rather have McBride over Dallas Goedert. This is Drake London and Trey McBride for a mile for me, my friend. We're easily going London and McBride. Now, our next team, this is coming out from Bustin Jeber. This is not a team review, but we really want trade options. It's pretty hard to trade in this league. Please help. Didn't mean to draft so many players from the same teams. It just happened. We dropped Dowdle for Jordan Mason. The team with St. Brown quit right before the draft, so they are not playing. Ooh, okay. So first off, I will say this is a shallower format. It's a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. So the depth is not really going to matter here. If you were going to look to make a deal, it's a 2-for-1 trade. So let's go through and okay, this is interesting. Look at the running back depth that we have on the squad. Starting off quarterback, we're loaded, not looking to make any trades at quarterback. Wide receiver, I love what you're doing with this team. It's that 10-team league where you only start 2 receivers and 1 flex. So we have the wide receivers that are studs at the very top of the lineup. We're not rostering these dud guys with no ceiling down at the bottom end. We have the elite tight end with Trey McBride as well. You were already doing, from a roster construction perspective, exactly what I would want here. We're rostering as many of these running backs as possible that could possibly take that jump up alongside Jahmyr Gibbs and turn to a league winner. Like, hypothetically, if CMC were to miss a season, I'm not saying it's happening. McCaffrey may be back this week. But if McCaffrey misses a season, Jordan Mason crushes. Zach Moss goes down. Chase Brown crushes as our RB2. Nick Chubb doesn't come back. Jerome Ford crushes. Jalen Warren goes down. Najee Harris crushes as RB2. So if you look at what you have across the board here with all this running back depth, I mean, one of these guys could randomly pop and just put you in such a good situation. So from a roster construction perspective, I think you're already exactly where you'd want to be. And it may be a little bit tough to go through and make a trade. I think what would be interesting is if we can go over to the CMC team and see what they would want for Jordan Mason and see if we can get an upgrade elsewhere. Because, I mean, if we are looking at this ourselves, we have Jerome Ford for the short term. We have plenty of running back depth. Gibbs, Montgomery, Najee, Ford are all startable for us. So, I mean, this is a spot where you can afford to trade away Jordan Mason with relative ease. Let's go find what team has McCaffrey. So, this is the McCaffrey team. And the McCaffrey team needs a running back. The McCaffrey team is sitting with Christian McCaffrey, Kyron Williams, Nick Chubb, Tajay Spears. So, McCaffrey being banged up. Nick Chubb not good to go. Kyron Williams looks like a bona fide stud, but, I mean, Tajay Spears splitting with Pollard. So if you could potentially, with this team, give them Jordan Mason and one of these receivers for a receiver upgrade. Like, if we can go Jordan Mason and Jalen Waddle and get Garrett Wilson, I think that would be an absolute no-brainer for your squad, where you're able to tier up, get another elite wide receiver 1 that's going to slide into your lineup. You're able to help out this team at running back for their depth. We have plenty of running back depth. I mean, at that point, you can go and pick up Rico Dowdle, who you dropped off waivers, and see if anything happens to Zeke, and just continue to churn. And as soon as these running backs that we pick up off the waiver wire get some value, we look to flip them in a deal. So yeah, let's see if there are any other teams that are maybe a little desperate at running back right now. This team has Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, Gus Edwards. if you could potentially go ahead and send them Jordan Mason and T. Higgins, or Jordan Mason and Xavier Worthy to go get Deebo Samuel, Marvin Harrison Jr., or Brandon Ayuk, I think that could be very interesting as well. This team only has Rashad White, Jalen Warren, and Zamir White. So if you could send them Jordan Mason and say Xavier Worthy and go get DJ Moore, I think that could be interesting. And going back to what we were talking about previously, specifically because you have the luxury of having all these startable running backs right now. So when you get the Jordan Mason pop, I think it would just make a lot of sense sending that production to another team that possibly needs some RB help and getting in a long-term improvement for us at wide receiver, and then just continue to do what we're doing and cycling those running backs off waivers. But I really do appreciate you. My friend, really hope that you were able to get something from this. And of course, if there's anything I can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. But let's see. Lamborghini Mercy is going to be the next team that we are looking at here. This is a 10-team start 8 format, so you can start up to 4 wide receivers. We have the 105 in the league. Let me know your thoughts. And Thomas Tamizi. Andres Thomas Tamizi. Much love, my friend. Really do appreciate you, and gonna be happy to check this out. So first thing is, look at the league analyzer. There are 2 juggernaut teams here. We are one of them. Definitely a lot better than being some of these teams here near the bottom. Looking at our squad, currently at quarterback, we are sitting with A-Rich. When you have A-Rich, we're starting him every single week, regardless of matchup, given the rushing upside that he has. At the same time, you can say, okay, well, maybe he's an injury risk, and maybe you want to roster a backup quarterback here. And yeah, I mean, Herbert isn't the worst backup QB to have at this point. Going over to running back, we have Bijan, Kyren, Nick Chubb, Blake Corum. Okay. So looking at running back, we get some great news week 1. And I mean great news. Kyren Williams plays over 90% of the snaps in Los Angeles. So if you were looking at projecting out these running backs going into the future, and I mean also Bijan Robinson plays a career high with this snap share, I mean without Arthur Smith. So if you look at Bijan, if you look at Kyren, you have 2 of the very few actual workhorse backs in fantasy. Going over to Nick Chubb, Blake Corum, obviously we don't have much depth beyond this, but we do have the alphas at the very top. That's why our running back room is ranked as the RB2. I mean, the second best running back room in the league. The only running back room that's ranked a little better has Brees, Gibbs, and then just better depth over us. But going over to wide receiver, we also have great news here as well. Brian Thomas Jr. looks phenomenal as a rookie. Ladd McConkey looks phenomenal. Cooper Kupp, obviously, now all of a sudden is a top 5 wide receiver. This is a league where we can start 4 wide receivers from week-to-week perspective, so the wide receiver depth definitely looks like it matters more in this format than it would otherwise. Going over to tight end, we have Brock Bowers. Bowers also had a great week 1. I think this is a team that got, I don't want to say lucky with week 1, but we got confirmation that we have a great squad after that week. I think you'd be a lot more excited about it now than you would have been going into the week. And just figuring out what we should do at this point. I think taking somebody like DK Metcalf that maybe has a little bit of a cap ceiling here and seeing if we can pivot off and maybe go get a true elite level tight ends. Like, or maybe you want to go a little bit lower. Maybe you want to go Amari Cooper. Like, if you could trade Amari Cooper and Bowers and go get McBride, go get Laporta, I think that would be interesting. Make that 2-for-1 deal, get the elite tight end, and then with the open roster spot, pick up another running back off the waiver wire. Because right now, I'm assuming Chubb's on the IR, so we're really only rostering 3 RBs, and 2 of them are on the same team. So, I mean, if you could go ahead and if you could make that deal for the elite tight ends with one of these wide receivers that we don't necessarily need, that maybe has a little bit of a cap ceiling, open up a roster spot, go pick up another running back off of waivers. I think that would be the most interesting play for this team. But I mean, obviously, this is a very strong team. This is a juggernaut team, according to the league analyzer. So there's not much for us to do. I just would like to go through and hopefully have more running back depth And I think maybe the easiest way to do that is through the waiver wire rather than trading. But for us to do that through waivers, we probably need to be opening up a roster spot or two, my friend. But thank you again. Really do appreciate you and really hope that I was able to help you out here. Now, Joe Witt Hoodie says, do I make this trade? Let's see if your team's linked. Okay. So right now, the team with Ford at running back, it's James Conner, Derrick Henry, you're starting every week. This other team at running back, you have Jones and James Cook. So you have the short-term option with Jerome Ford. You have the long-term option with Rome Odunze. I don't know, to be honest. Who would you rather have rest of season, ladies and gentlemen? Can everybody spam the chat? Would you rather have Rome Odunze or Jerome Ford rest of season for your fantasy football team? Please let me know in the live chat right now. Rome, Ford, Ford. Ford, Rome, 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 Ford, Rome. Rome, Ford. This roster, Rome, 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 Ford, Ford, Rome. So it does look like most people want Rome. If you look at my rankings, I have Rome ahead of Ford as well. I think it's a fair deal. I think it definitely depends on if you're looking for long-term upside or if you're looking for production right now. But I think Rome does have more long-term upside. Like, I don't think Ford's startable when Chubb comes back. Now, this question coming out from Igpop says, I have Breece Hall and Jahmyr Gibbs, my starting running backs. We have Adam Smith, Brandon Ayuk, and Reed as my wide receivers. But I feel I need a better wide receiver one. Is this trade worth doing, essentially? I think, honestly, there's more value with the Ramondre and Devontae Adams side. Instead of Nico, if you get up to like A.J. Brown, I think that would be interesting. I just think as standalone pieces, you can maybe get a little more value with the Stevenson Adams. I love the idea of it, especially with us having Breece and Gibbs. I just think you need to maybe be trying to squeeze a little more value. Maybe add a player in on their side. Okay. So L. Jackson coming out with our next team. This is a... Let's see. Is this team showing up? Yes, this team is showing up. I'm sorry that the league analyzer is kind of breaking here for you, my friend. Looks like this is a 13-team league. I know this is one of the bugs that we're working with right now. And yeah, there are a bunch of different like minor bugs that we're working with on flogfantasy.com at the moment. I'm sure y'all noticed the site had a massive, massive update. The site was completely redone and it was dropped like not last night, but the night before at like close to midnight. So we pretty much have had the updated site for about 30 hours. The developers have been working around the clock trying to iron out some of these bugs. One of the bugs at the moment is if you're in a 13-team league, which we didn't expect people to be in 13-team leagues, the analyzer kind of breaks a bit. But anyway, you're saying any potential trades, possibly looking to offload Montgomery and or Worthy. So going ahead, pulling this up, quarterback, I definitely think that we could improve here. We have Purdy, we have Justin Herbert. I mean, obviously, I think both quarterbacks are really strong real-life options. The issue with Justin Herbert is specifically in this offense, it looks like the passing volume is not going to be there and that they want to just run the ball. They just want to play good defense. They're not really going to rely on Herbert to throw it and air it out as we've seen in the past. Going over to running back, we have Achane, Montgomery, Connor, Brooks, Dowdle, Chandler, Wright. So we have a couple of these running backs at the bottom end that are an injury away from all of a sudden being in a much better situation. We have the running back we're excited about at the top end with Devon Achane. We have James Conner that we can play in the short term. We have Montgomery as a viable play, but obviously a running back that has a crazy ceiling if Jahmyr Gibbs were to go down. So running back, I really like the room. Overall, we have the long-term upside with Jonathan Brooks too. So if you are looking at this running back room currently, in terms of looking to sell a player, I don't mind moving on from Montgomery or James Conner. The tough spot is like David Montgomery is in an offense that has a 29-point implied team total this week. It's just so hard to... it's so hard to pivot off a player like that has a role in one of these elite level offenses. I mean, the Lions look so damn good week 1. This offensive line looks so good. James Conner also, this is a situation in which I need to figure out for myself, because I have James Conner in the Flock League. He's my RB1. And I would love to potentially go through and say, oh, okay, well, Trey Benson's going to have the expanded role later in the season. Since Benson's going to expand his role, maybe we should sell high on James Conner before that begins to happen. But I feel like it's way too early, especially he's going to crush this week against the Rams. It's just a phenomenal game environment. 50 point total. So I see the appeal in maybe selling Montgomery or Connor. Going over to wide receiver, we have Chase, Waddle, Worthy, McLaurin. So because you have the startable running back here in James Conner and HN looks like he is good to go, if you wanted to pivot off of David Montgomery and Xavier Worthy to go get a true elite level receiver, go get a wide receiver that went in round 2 of your drafts this year, I think that is something you can do. It's a league where you only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. So obviously the depth at wide receiver doesn't matter a ton. That's why we are rostering so many of these high upside running backs at the very bottom end. But we would still love to have the elite receivers in the starting lineup. Worthy, pops in value, looks very strong week 1, but obviously doesn't see a lot of volume. And Hollywood Brown will be coming in. So if you wanted to take David Montgomery and package him with Worthy, go get that wide receiver upgrade, fill in a running back down there on the bottom end of the waiver wire and just keep churning the position, I wouldn't mind that at all. But also what you could do is you could see if you could sell Montgomery and Purdy and go get an elite quarterback that has the rushing upside. And then tight end, we have Sam Laporta, Dallas Goedert. I think Laporta is of the ilk of the tight end that you can start every single week, regardless of matchup. So I want to go through and let's see if we can find a team that maybe needs a tight end here. Like this team has Ben Sinnott, Cole Kmet, neither tight end with a real role. So if you could possibly take them, Dallas Goedert, like if you could send them Dallas Goedert and Xavier Worthy and go get Drake London, I think that would be very interesting. But yeah, if you're trading Worthy, I think you have to be getting a receiver in return because we can't roll into the year with McLaurin as our wide receiver 3. So the pivot from Worthy would be a tier up. And I don't mind the idea of selling Montgomery there as long as we are backfilling with another running back off of waivers. But it is good news now that you have HN looking like he is going to be good to go here, my friend. But thank you again. I really do appreciate you. And I really hope I was able to help you out in some way there. But let me pull up the live chat and answer as many questions as we can. So if you want a free question answered, please throw it in the live chat right now. TMH says, traded Josh Allen for A.J. Brown, who won? I would way rather have A.J. Brown over Josh Allen. I mean, in terms of just positional scarcity, you could stream quarterbacks off waivers, play the matchups, and not be in a horrendous spot. Whereas the value over replacement that you're getting for a player like A.J. Brown is just insane. So I definitely would prefer maybe having like A.J. Brown there. Okay. Thomas says, how do I link a team? Got a question about starting or sitting Smith, Harrison, and Keon. So if you're wanting to link a team on flockfantasy.com, just go to the My Teams page. If you're wanting to link a Yahoo team, it's just going to prompt you. It's going to have a pop-up, your Yahoo login. You log in, all your Yahoo leagues link immediately. A sleeper, you copy and paste your league ID. That one's super simple. ESPN's a pain in the butt. You have to do it on the desktop, and you have to log into ESPN on one window, log into flockfantasy.com on one window, add in the Flock ESPN extension to your Google Chrome browser, hit sync, and then it pulls the cookies from your ESPN league into Flock, and we're able to save them for a year, so you only have to do it once. I know it's a pain in the butt, but that's the easiest way it is done. So I would... Yes, that's how you do it. So ESPN, you do have to do it on the browser. I mean, you have to do it on a desktop, which I'm sorry about. I mean, maybe you could do it on mobile. I just think it'd be tough. Ulti says, Reed or Shakir in the flex. I probably go Reed, even if I'm very much nervous about the offense. But I also think Curtis Samuel has a slightly larger role this week than he did week 1. Artvid says start Achane or Mason. If we knew for a 100% fact that McCaffrey was out this week, I think you can go ahead. I think you can go with Mason, but I don't know if that's 100%. CR7 says Waddle or Kamara for the flex. I think Kamara gives you a higher floor. I think Waddle possibly gives you a higher ceiling. I want to say Waddle, but I'm very biased because I'm relying on him tonight. KT says Fields or Goff. I'm going to go Goff. Nick says Kincaid, Pitts, or Bowers this week. I'm going to go with Kincaid. It's crazy you have that many tight ends. Kojin says drop Jalen Warren for Jeff Wilson Jr. I would not, my friend. RR says, is there a voucher I have to deposit on Underdog? Yeah, so if you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog and made your first deposit September 5th or after, you will get a free team review voucher over there on flockfantasy.com the following day. And just when you go to the submit a team review, blah, 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 and you get to the page where you select the creators, it should say $0 for me if you have that voucher. If you use promo code FLOCK and made your first deposit September 5th or through September 11th, and you don't see that it says $0 and you don't have that voucher, please reach out to me. Would love to see why that's the case. Love to check your email for you. You need to have the same email address on flockfantasy.com that you did on Underdog, though. But if you signed up to Underdog today with code FLOCK, you're going to get that free voucher tomorrow morning when Underdog sends me those emails. Okay. Magnum Opus says White or James Cook tonight. I think Rachaad White probably has a higher floor. E Diesel says, when's the tight end video? We have our flex rankings, our tight end rankings, our quarterback rankings, and our defense rankings all dropping tomorrow. Chris says Jacobs or Neighbors of the flex. Probably Jacobs now that you are dealing with the Neighbors injury. But I'm going to head over to flockfantasy.com. I know we have a bunch of team reviews to get through, which obviously I'm going to be doing a bunch of team reviews every single day. But I definitely want to make sure that I'm not missing any start sit questions. So let me answer some of the start sit ones first. Thovin, who's asked a bunch of questions on flockfantasy.com. Much love. Really do appreciate you, my friend. Says, is Devon Achane out? So Achane's going to be playing. I definitely play Achane over Swift, Jaleel, Warren, Wright, and Bucky Irving. Between Swift, Jaleel, Jalen Warren, Jalen Wright, and Bucky Irving, I think we're going to go ahead. We're going to take DeAndre Swift. I'm really hoping Swift's better this week. The offense should be bad, which doesn't make me super excited. And then for a flex between Waddle and Rice, who are we starting a receiver on? This is a loaded receiver team. Can everybody please spam the chat? Who would you rather start between Jalen Waddle and Rashee Rice? Jalen Waddle, Rashee Rice, who are you wanting? Please let me know, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Rice, Waddle. Waddle, Rice, Waddle. Rice, Waddle. It does look like most people are going Rashee Rice. I'm kind of fine with you going either or. I will just say if you start Waddle, make sure you put him there at wide receiver 2 and move A.J. Brown down to your flex just in case anything happens later in the week and you need the flexibility to pivot. But Fabian coming out with the next question for us says, just traded Stafford and Brian Robinson for Travis Etienne. Do I start Amari or Ridley over Smith or Neighbors this week? So first off, tight end, obviously we're going to throw Kelsey in here. So Smith is going to be a start for sure. It really comes down to Neighbors versus Amari Ridley. I'd rather have Amari over Ridley based off the tough matchup for Ridley and the news that we had about Hopkins seeing like he's going to be maybe a little bit better this week. If we get I think you plan on Neighbors, and if we get anything coming out saying that Neighbors is going to be worse off than we initially thought, then at that point, maybe you pivot. And then, yeah, running back, obviously, these are the guys on our bench. So I think we plan on going Neighbors, and we pivot if we need to. And let's answer the Dexon question. Says, need help with the flex. London scaring me this week with the Eagles matchup Monday night. Don't trust Kirk. Debating on Najee or Kincaid in my flex this week. Okay, so next time, my friend, all you have to do is add in like an empty flex. And then underneath, put the 2 players that you're considering. And then I'll click it. I'll answer it on the live stream and give you my explanation and also send it to you. And it will all get sent through flockfantasy.com. So all you have to do is, if you're needing a flex spot considered, just add a little flex icon there and go, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And then these are the guys I'm considering. So Najee and London underneath. If it's a full PBR format, however, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to be taking Drake London here. Full PPR league, my friend. I want to go ahead. I want to take Drake London. Okay. But let's go ahead and Squid has our next question. This one is Coleman or Calvin Ridley. And yes, this is yet again another one of these filled out wrong. So if you're just wanting to ask Keon Coleman or Calvin Ridley, just put in one little wide receiver empty slot and then just put Keon Coleman, Calvin Ridley there. I'll choose between the two. Looking at Keon Ridley, I think Ridley has the higher floor. I think Keon has the higher ceiling. It's a tough matchup for Ridley. I probably go ahead and I probably take Calvin Ridley for the time being, but it's very close to flipping over to Keon Coleman soon. Now, this is a trade question coming out from Christopher. It says, my other receivers are Rice, Moore, Brian Thomas Jr., Keon, JSN. My running backs are Robinson, Javonte. Here real quick, just let you know also, if you link your team next time you submit this, I can see all your team players and all your opponent's team players as well. But anyway, our running back is Brian Robinson, Javonte, Charbonnet, Spears, Chase Brown. So looking at this, Zay Flowers to Jordan Addison, downgrade. Zach Charbonnet to Jonathan Brooks, upgrade. If we have Rice, Moore, Brian Thomas Jr., Keon Coleman, I don't necessarily think you need to start Zay Flowers right now. Running back, we definitely need some upside in the long term here. So I think we're fine going with Brooks. I don't love trading away Charbonnet with the Walker injury, but if Walker does miss, it's maybe only 1 week. But Walker wasn't at practice today. Now, moving this over to the next question. This one coming out from Sean. This is a trade where we send Dobbins and Smith for Nico Collins. Our receivers are Hill, Nico, Olave, Pickens. Our running backs are Kamara, Zamir, Chase Brown. Was looking for an upgrade to Whites. So I am wanting to just say Nico Collins is him. We want Nico Collins. If you're telling me that Chase Brown's our running back 2 right now, I completely understand going with the J.K. Dobbins side. I think it is up to you because I can see how it helps your team. I just don't like that we are giving up the best player here in Nico Collins, but I definitely think you could do this, my friend. Now, Connor coming out says, don't love my flag. This is actually a team review. So we're going to get back to the team reviews. I just want to make sure we're not going to be missing any start-sit questions before the game happens. So we're just prioritizing start-sit questions. Then we're going to go to team reviews. But it says, who should I start for my RB2 full PPR? Rico, Jaleel, Charbonnet, Jeff Wilson Jr. Thanks. Thank you, my friend. So looking at this, we did not fill this stuff out. So yeah, it's just in the chat. Yeah, like I said, please, I'm going to release a tutorial on how y'all should fill this out. But anyway, between Rico, Jaleel, Charbonnet, Jeff Wilson Jr., I'm going to be planning on Charbonnet. Kenneth Walker missed practice. There's an outside chance that Kenneth Walker misses the game. If that happens, Charbonnet is going to be an absolute crusher. If it doesn't happen, I do think that maybe he does have a little bit of an expanded role regardless. But let's go ahead and let's get this going for Alexi. This is a trade question. Says, hey, Mason, longtime fan. This trade has already occurred, and I want to know what you think. It's a Superflex league. So I think I messed up giving away Daniels, but my other quarterback was Watson. Hopefully, the quarterback depth and the upgrade at running back was worth it. All right. So let's look at this. I will let you know one thing real quick. I don't like trading 5 players for 5 players. I don't like trading 4 players for 4 players. It makes the deal messy. Like, very rarely is it going to come out to be a win-win when you're essentially swapping this high of a percentage of your roster. A lot of times you're going to be a team that makes out like a bandit. A lot of times there's going to be a team that maybe gets a little bit robbed. But regardless, looking at this, let's try to take out some of these pieces that aren't super exciting and make no difference. I'm sorry to say this, but Tyler Johnson makes literally 0 difference in this trade. No matter what side Tyler Johnson's on, he is worth the same as a roster spot. He's worthless. So we're going to remove Tyler Johnson from this trade. So we tiered down from Jaden Daniels to Darnold and Geno. Obviously, we needed the quarterback depth. So now we have 3 starting quarterbacks, but we give away the best player in a Superflex league. We go from Evans to London, which maybe at this point does look like a lateral move. If you look at my rankings, I have London wide receiver 14. I have Mike Evans wide receiver 15. So honestly, to clear this up, I'm actually just going to remove them because I do think that they're about the same and it's going to be easier to view. Going over in running back, we go from Chase Brown, Javonte Williams. We go from Chase Brown, Javonte to Kenneth Walker, Tank Dell. Both of those spots are upgrades. So we get 2 upgrades with our skill positional guys. We tiered down from Jaden Daniels to pick up an additional starter. If you are having a very difficult time finding a third viable quarterback in a Superflex league, I am okay and I understand the thought process behind this deal. I'm definitely worried about you trading away Jaden Daniels, of course. And if this was a Dynasty league, then at that point, I would definitely say that Daniels is the winning side of this. But operating under the assumption that this is a redraft Superflex format, I think that you want the Darnold, Walker, Dell, Geno side. But if it's Dynasty, give me the Daniels. Okay. Now, let me back out of here, and I'll answer some questions in the general chat real quick. If we have any free questions that we want to get to, definitely would like to prioritize some of the questions that will be regarding the game tonight. But if you have any questions you want me to get to, please fire them away in the chat right now. James says, I was trying to subscribe on the Flock site, but the subscribe buttons don't work. That's the first time that I've heard of that, my friend. And I know we've had a bunch of people subscribe. So would you mind logging out, logging in? Would you mind maybe closing and opening it again? Let me know if that still is an issue. But Darian says, FYI, you are starting Achane tonight. 100%. If you have Achane on your team, he's in your lineup. Adrian says Zach Moss or Jaden Reed. Probably Zach Moss here. Okay. Let's move this over. Phil says you need to make a tutorial on how to link with ESPN. Yes, I'm very sorry. So ESPN, you actually have to add the Flock ESPN extension because we need to pull cookies to link with your ESPN team. You have to pull those cookies. Okay. Latima says trade Aaron Jones and Dobbins for Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, I think I would prefer JT there. Margaret says over under Jeff Wilson gets 10 touches tonight. Let me see what the underdog pick comes at. Because I think Jalen Wright's going to be active as well. So it should be a 3-man running back by committee. We don't exactly know what the role is going to look like for Achane. So let's just go through and let's look at all the underdog pick'ems right now to see some realistic expectations and some realistic projections here. Because to be honest with y'all, I value these very highly because you can go through and you can take higher or lower. Underdog, kind of has a lot on the line here. So Josh Allen, there are just so many different options. Higher, lower, 23.5 fantasy points, which honestly probably is the highest mark you're going to see this week. Tyreek Hill, higher, lower, 94.5 receiving yards. Keon Coleman, 45.5 receiving yards. Kincaid, 44.5. James Cook is currently higher, lower, 12.5 fantasy points. Jalen Waddle, higher, lower, 67.5 receiving yards. Achane, they have at 11.5 rushing attempts and 3.5 receptions with even odds to score a touchdown. I know we're going to look like an idiot for doing this, but I think we actually kind of want to build something out here. I think we're going to take Achane to not have a touchdown in this game, given the ankle injury. Yeah, I think we're going to go with fewer than a touchdown for Achane. Maybe we say that this is a lower scoring game overall. We go fewer than 3.5 receptions for Shakir, expecting that potentially Curtis Samuel has a little bit of a larger role than he did previously. And let's go with James Cook to have a touchdown with a 1.4x multiplier. James Cook does have vulture protection. So if James Cook gets vultured at the goal line, we actually get our money refunded to us. So I actually really like taking advantage of the promo. Like I said, I won $250 on Underdog last week, not because I'm good at pick'ems, but just because I took advantage of the promos. And I'm going to add in the 10% profit boost. We're going to put $10. And that will be 10 to win. What was that? 109 or 106? I'm sorry. $10 to win 106. What we need is we need Achane to not score a touchdown, James Cook to score a touchdown, Khalil Shakir to have fewer than 3.5 receptions. So we're hoping it's a lower scoring game. And also remember, we have vulture protection on James Cook. So if he gets vultured at the goal line and instead somebody else scores the rushing touchdown, then we actually get refunded this entry anyway. So it's a little bit of a free roll, which I want to take advantage of. But let's move this over and see if we have anything else. Derek says Justin Jefferson for Cooper Kupp. I have Kupp ranked ahead of Jefferson in my rankings this week. In my rest of season rankings, I still do have Jefferson ahead of Kupp, specifically because Puka will eventually be back here, and I would rather have Jefferson at that point. Cam says start Kyler or Tua in a 6-point passing touchdown format. I think in a 6-point passing touchdown format, it's definitely closer than a 4-point league, but I'm still going to want to go ahead and take Kyler. Close quarter says Bills versus Dolphins, low scoring. I'm definitely not the expectation, right? If you look at some of the other pick'em slips that we made, we actually went higher than on Josh Allen passing yards, higher than on Tua passing yards, higher than Jalen Waddle receiving yards. But we're kind of trying to tell a story with every pick'em slip, trying to create correlation inside of it. And yeah, it's obviously not a high probability of happening. It's $10 to win 106 with protection that we possibly get refunded anyway. So really, if we win that 10% of the time, it is profitable. So let's move this over. Drew says Jeff Wilson Jr. or Jalen Warren. If we're looking who to start this week, I will go Jeff Wilson Jr. over Jalen Warren. Leonardo says Terry or Shaheed. I'm going to start Terry over Shaheed this week. Tap by Driz says Mason hair looks great today. Thank you. And I have some beef to pick with y'all. And I know nobody else is watching this that's in the Flock League because they're probably all streaming too. So I can say this and not have to worry about someone hearing it. I specifically gave y'all instructions that with the Flock League channel to whenever we drop a video to spam the comments with Mason's the smartest, Mason's the best, Mason's the best looking. Everybody, all the creators on that channel read every single comment. I thought it would have been hilarious if we had 100 people commenting that stuff. We had one person that said Mason's so handsome and his team's the best here. For the next video, we're going to have a video that drops tomorrow on the Flock League YouTube channel. Please, if you see the video, leave a comment specifically saying how I'm the funniest, how I'm the best looking, how I'm the smartest, and my team's the best. If we have a bunch of people leaving comments like that, it will be hilarious. Please do it. Emerald says lemon pepper wings or garlic parm wings, half PPR. Garlic parm, of course. I'm not a super big lemon pepper. Thank you. Vadim says, I don't mind lying to the Flock League. Obviously, I'm not saying any of those things are true, which is why it's funny if you leave the comment. So please leave the comment. Kohler says, nah, Dev Gang for life. What's funny is in the Flock League, Tom, the developer, there are 3 developers of flockfantasy.com that are in the league. Tom has never played fantasy football before. He's the one developer. He's the one person in the league that's never played fantasy. He drafted Jamison Williams. He drafted Cooper Kupp. He has Cooper Kupp and CeeDee Lamb. He took CeeDee Lamb over McCaffrey. The guy is crushing, and he's never played before. Mia says, drop Jalen Warren or Tajay Spears for Jalen Wright. I wouldn't. No. Not with HN playing. Vadim says Tom is going to win. If the person who's never played fantasy football before beats like all the fantasy football YouTubers, that would be really funny. But let's be real here. I'm winning the league. Let's be real. Okay. Now, Team Rogers says Pitts, likely Coleman. We got to start 2. I'm going to go Pitts and Coleman. Never want to be throwing a tight end in the flex spot. Simon says, Mason, where do you get your snaps and routes run data from? It's from PFF, and we actually have a link to it. That's in the description of the videos where we talk about that. Okay. Ethan says, likely or Kincaid. Please start Kincaid over likely. I'm really confident with that. Okay. Mike says, so HN's a must start, but you say not a touchdown for him. What's the deal? The deal is that Underdog Pick'em was $10 to win $106, my friend. All about the odds. All about the odds. But yeah, and going back to the Kincaid versus likely question, right now the projections with Kincaid's higher, lower, 44.5 receiving yards. Isaiah likely, the projections on Underdog are 35.5 receiving yards. Likely you get a 1.88x multiplier score touchdown. Kincaid, you get a 1.87. So they have Kincaid tiny, about the same odds score touchdown, but higher yardage totals. But of course, if you want to check out any of those pick'ems over there on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the description, in the comment section, in the live chat. Code FLOCK will get you a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Plus, it'll get you a free team review over there on flockfantasy.com. And yeah, it gives you a CD Lamb special pick'em as well, more than less than half total yard. Definitely take advantage of that. But let's go over to flockfantasy.com and let's see if we have any more start-sit questions. If not, we will actually dive into some of the team reviews here, but I want to make sure we get to the trade questions and the start-sit questions before the game tonight, as I don't know if the game tonight will change any of that. But anyway, saying I already have Jalen Hurts as my quarterback, and we have a decent wide receiver room. So if we already have Jalen Hurts as our quarterback, going from Richardson to Burrow doesn't impact us too much. DJ Moore to Devonta Smith, I think we get the tiniest little upgrade there. Honestly, I don't think you're getting a big enough upgrade at quarterback for this. Wide receiver for this really to make a difference. I don't think Devonta Smith is that much better than DJ Moore, especially now that you have the concerns with Rome Odunze and Keenan Allen injuries. So I would rather have DJ Moore, Richardson from a value perspective. I think you can get more for those guys. Now, Alex, coming out with the next trade, says, this trade is done. Did we lose? Adams versus Harrison. Give me Harrison. Flowers, Ramondre versus McCaffrey. Give me McCaffrey. So if we got this side, my friend, we crushed. I really hope we did not get this side. I really hope we got this one. Hopefully. We're going to go CMC and Harrison. But then we have a couple team reviews to get to. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back over and dive into some of these team reviews. We already answered this team review for Hawk Tua. I really hope it sends you the right timestamp, or I really hope that you saw this in the live stream. But yeah, this is the CMC team. This is the team where we said essentially trade Kirk and Najee after this week to try to get a running back upgrade. But we did already answer this one for you, my friend. Hope that you were able to see it. If not, please rewind in the live stream until you see your name on the screen. It was about probably 30, 45 minutes ago. But Millennium Falcon coming out with the next one. I'm sorry, I don't know why the League Analyzer is having a small bug in being able to grade out what you have here. But really do appreciate you and going to be excited to check this out, my friend. You don't send a message with this. Let's go ahead. This is, what's the team? Millennium Falcon, we said. Yeah, so we are at number 10. This is a Dynasty 2 quarterback 14-team league. So it's going to be very difficult to read and understand this team for everybody who's watching it that has not played in a 14-team Dynasty league before. And more importantly, that has not played in a 14-team Superflex Dynasty league before. Because if you played in a Superflex league, I'm going to let you know right now, it's very different than a 14-team Superflex league, a 16-team Superflex league. Or if you play in a 14-teamer, if you play in a 16-teamer, it is extremely difficult to ever come by a quarterback, just because if you do the supply and demand of the position, and a 10-team league, everybody on average can have 3 to 4 starting quarterbacks, and they're more than enough to go around. In a 12-team league, everybody's going to have 2 to 3. In a 14-team format, there are going to be very, very few teams that can have 3 starting QBs. So in rookie drafts, they're going to cost more. In trades, that they're going to cost more. Right now at quarterback, we have A-Rich, definitely a top 14 quarterback. Herbert, definitely a top 28 quarterback. Hopefully Russ is starting for us by the time we get to the bye weeks of these other guys. But quarterback, we definitely have the long-term value here with these two players. And at the same time, we have enough production in the short term to be a contending team. So I think you are in a really comfortable spot here at QB, my friend. Going over to running back. Running back in Dynasty is typically going to be a position that I only concern ourselves with if we are looking to contend this year. Our running backs this year, in Joe Mixon, looks to be a top 14 back, so we have an RB1. With this being a full PPR format, Kamara very easily could be an RB1 as well, be a top 14 guy. We have some depth with Brian Robinson, Jalen Warren. Hopefully Raheem Mostert comes back and is healthy. Obviously, if we were to pivot over to a rebuilding team, at that point, Mixon, Kamara, Robinson, Warren, Mostert are literally all guys that get thrown on the trade block for us. They will be worth less in Dynasty next offseason than they are now. But as we stand at this moment, I think that you are in probably a pretty good spot at running back if we were wanting to contend this year, not really needing to make any adjustments. Now, going over to wide receiver, we have Devonta Smith, cornerstone asset. We can build around him to win this year and for the long term. DJ Moore, we can kind of say the same thing here. Both wide receivers have a shot to be a top 14 guy. At the very minimum, they're top 28 players. Jaden Reed looks like a top 28 player and has that long-term value as well. Really, and Jordan Addison, I mean, really, we need Addison to make a difference here because this is that league where depth is extremely hard to come by. But I think Addison, I mean, if you go through and do the math on what he needs to be a wide receiver 3, he needs to be a top 42 wide receiver in this format. I definitely think he can be just that. So overall, wide receiver, I think that we're not extremely strong, but we're strong enough to get by. Tight end, we have Kittle and Dallas Goedert. So this is for sure a team that I think we want to be contending with right now. If you are looking at potentially making any moves, I think because we have a little more running back depth than wide receiver, and it does look to be a full PPR format, if you wanted to approach a contending team that is maybe a little disappointing with what they have currently at running back, I think you could potentially see if we can go ahead and ship them one of these depth running backs, such as, say, Jalen Warren. I think that would be an interesting call if you can pivot from Warren to go get another wide receiver for one of these flexes in a full PPR format. 1 second, the dog's spazzing. Miley, come in here. Get in here, you bad dog. But overall, I mean, really, it's a well-balanced team. It's a team that depth matters a ton because it's that 14-team format where you start 10 guys. And if you wanted to pivot some of the running back depth that we add to wide receiver depth, if somebody in your league that needs running backs willing to pay a premium for it, given the landscape of the running back position at this moment, I definitely think that is something that you can go ahead and do if you wanted. But really, I'm definitely going to be planning on contending this year. If you wanted to rebuild, I'd be almost throwing everybody on this trade block, but Jaden Reed, Jordan Addison, the quarterbacks. Kittle obviously would be thrown on. Goddard would be thrown on. But I think you're in a completely fine spot to just go ahead, contend this season. And yeah, if you wanted to move some of the running back depth, because it's a dynasty league where you start 10 guys at a 14-team format for wide receiver depth, if you're going to get placed at premium, I think you can do that. But going over to our next team review, is going to be coming out from BCIV. Team name's Nico Please. We are the number 1 team with the league analyzer. It is a little bit of a deeper format as well. It's a 12-teamer where we can start 4 wide receivers from week-to-week perspective. Saying, do you think we make any trades for a better quarterback or just walk into the championship as is? Love to hear the confidence, my guy. I will say right away, Brock Purdy is my quarterback in my league. But if Purdy is your QB, what you need to be doing is you don't necessarily need to be rostering you don't necessarily need to be trading for another quarterback, but I do think at the very minimum, you need to be rostering another QB. Like I probably go through, pick another quarterback off the waiver wire. You can go ahead, you can drop maybe somebody like Xavier Legette here, somebody that's in a capped offense overall that will face target competition. Like I have Legette specifically in a ton of underdog best ball drafts, so I hope that Legette performs well, but I just don't necessarily know how excited we can be about that. But anyway, yeah, going over to running back, we are sitting with Jacobs, Montgomery, Najee, Benson, Dowdle, Mason, Corum. So we have a bunch of these running backs that have upside if their situations were to change. But how things sit right now, it's not like they are players that we can count on as running back ones right this second. Like Jacobs, I would say that you could if it wasn't for the Jordan Love injury. If you look at the league analyzer, obviously running back's not our strength here. I mean, we are 7, but we are attacking the position with depth because we don't have the elite level players at the top. And where we have the elite level players at the top is wide receiver. We have Tyreek, we have Collins, we have London, we have Rice. We have 4 guys that we're starting every single week in our lineup regardless. So the depth here doesn't matter as much. So I love that we're rostering these running backs that are an injury away to make a really big difference. Tight end, we have Kittle. I don't think you need to roster another tight end. You're going to be starting him every single week regardless of said matchup. So I think you're in a really good situation in terms of the construction of this team. If you were looking to go ahead and if you were looking to make a play at quarterback, I think you would have to wait for one of these running backs to become viable long-term options. Because like if we trade Najee Harris and Brock Purdy to go get a quarterback upgrade right now, we're leaving ourselves Jacobs, Montgomery at running back. Obviously, Jordan Mason could be a 0 starting this week. We don't know. But if Trey Benson breaks out, then all of a sudden we have the additional running back depth where we can afford to make that 2-for-1 deal and go upgrade a quarterback. I think we do it. I just don't think now's the time to do so. Right now, we need to be just taking as many swings on these running backs as we can that could possibly see their situation change for the better. And then going over to receiver, we don't really have to do anything. The only thing I would do to adjust quarterback right now is possibly roster a second guy. If Miller's on your IR, then obviously we hold on to Miller. If Miller's not on your IR and he's taking a bench spot, we drop Miller. We go get another QB. I think the other guy that you probably could look to drop would be Xavier Legette. Obviously, Legette has a higher floor from a week-to-week perspective than Blake Corum. But if Kyron Williams goes down, I think Blake Corum has a really large role. So, yeah, I think you just drop player, pick up a second quarterback for now. Once we have another running back breaking out, then we go ahead and we trade that running back with the quarterback. We chill at wide receiver. We're golden. We chill at tight end. We're golden. Love that we're attacking running back with depth at the moment. I think there's a reason we are the number 1 team with the league analyzer. But much love. Really do appreciate you, my friend. Really hope I was able to help you out. But let's see if we have... And Jay Rodriguez, I answered your start set question like an hour ago, my friend. I answered your start set question. So definitely check the site because I answered it, my guy. But let's go through and make sure we answer all the trade questions and the start set questions before the game starts. So this one is Jones, Godwin versus Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors. Going from Godwin to Neighbors, upgrade. Jones for Brian Thomas Jr., downgrade. I think you probably prefer Jones and Godwin right now in a redraft formats. I think you just squeeze out a little more value for Aaron Jones. Let me read the team. We have Cook, Lamb, Olave, Ingram, Waddle, Godwin, Jones, Mason, Ridley, JSN. Yeah, you have so much wide receiver depth, unless it's a league with multiple flex spots. There you can pivot over to wide receiver. Okay. Now we're going to hit next question there. Next question coming over from Dez. Says, with Love hurt, I'm currently starting Fields. Should we pick up Baker or Tua? I'd probably drop Fields if so. Yeah, I think you can pick up Tua and start him instead. Need some flex help. I'm thinking Shakir and hopefully a shootout or likely. So real quick, running back, we're going to go Montgomery here relatively easily. Quarterback, I would go Tua over Fields off the waiver wire. And then for the flex, it really is between Isaiah Likely, Khalil Shakir, and Christian Watson. If you like Likely because of the game environment, I would definitely go with one of the receivers. If you want Shakir because of the game environment, I would do that. I'm not going with the tight end in the flex ever. Like if you look at the underdog pick'em right now for Isaiah Likely, if you think Likely is going to crush this week, he's at higher, lower 35.5 receiving yards. Like it's hard to go with Likely there. I will say, remember though, because Shakir plays on Thursday nights. What you're going to want to do instead is you're going to want to put Shakir in your wide receiver 2 slot, put Nico Collins down there in the flex just in case anything happens and we didn't make a swap. But yeah, and then also, like I said, we're going to be going with Tua off the waiver wire instead of Fields. Okay. Let's mark that. And let's go over to Ghost. Has a start sit question. Says, what's up, Mason, with the team? Who do you think we start this week? Also, do you think we should go out and for some trades or anything? Looking at the squad, I really like this in a league where you start 3 wide receivers having this depth, and the Puka injury is going to make things a lot tougher for us, where I don't know if we're as excited to go through and trade away any depth. Really, the best guy off of the bench to get in the lineup at receiver would be Shaheed, but I would rather have Jameson Williams over Shaheed based off the offenses that they're playing in. Going over to the flex, to get J.K. Dobbins out of here, your best option, would be either Shaheed or Madison or Spears. And I think Dobbins is the easy play. We play Achane tonight. Stroud, we don't have it. Pivot. Andrews versus Goddard. I think we go Andrews. So I think you leave this team as is. I think it's honestly a really strong team, but you're not able to really make too many moves until we get confirmation about Puka. Let's go ahead. And we have a couple team reviews that, of course, we will get to later, probably maybe in the live stream tonight. But I just want to make sure that we're getting all the start sit questions and the trade questions done real quick. And of course, you can purchase a trade question, start sit question any time of the day, all through flockfantasy.com. I'll answer it on a live stream for you. It will be, the answer will be sent to you regardless of if you're in the stream or not. And you can watch the stream with the exact timestamp and everything to see your answer. But if you are going to want a roster review, I would definitely recommend getting one through Underdog Fantasy and taking advantage of the promo that we have. If you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, you are going to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Plus, with promo code FLOCK over there on Underdog Fantasy, you will also get a free team review on flockfantasy.com. Just make sure you have an account set up on flockfantasy.com with the same email address as your Underdog Fantasy account. Plus, you'll get a CeeDee Lamb special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard. I went through and I made some pick'ems for tonight. Wally says, Achane injured during warmups. Let's go ahead and let's check this out. But yeah, you can find that link to Underdog Fantasy in the description in the comment section. And let's see if there's anything that just came out with Devon Achane. I would be surprised if Achane got injured during, like, the game starts in 5 minutes. Mark, please shoot it to me on Discord, my guy. I see you. Okay. I'm looking up Achane right now. Yeah, I don't see anything. I think you're going to play Achane. Okay. Yeah. Keith says just trying to scare us. Yeah, he's active. I know that he's going to be good to go. Definitely risky, but I think you have to start him. But much love. Really do appreciate you. Really hope that y'all enjoyed this stream. Of course, I'll be live after the game tonight talking about all the impacts, et cetera, et cetera. But really do appreciate you and really hope I get to see you out in the live stream later tonight.